Hello out there, all of you wonderful people in podcast land. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Photography Brothers, which is a podcast hosted by myself, Jared Poirier, and I am here with another amazing, inspiring creative.
Thank you, man. Michael Costa, thanks for pointing the finger my way. Hi, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And we're excited to have you on.
Yeah, welcome everybody, our returning listeners and any new listeners that might be tuning in. This is the Photography Brothers. I probably already said that. We are the Photography Brothers. We're your Photography Brothers. And
right.
And this is a show about photography, and it would be pretty weird if we called it Photography Brothers and it was about like sports or something. That'd be weird. I feel like
those Leafs with the 2-1 win.
The rails already. Is this already off the rails?
Nah, man. It's personality, man. We gotta let them know what we're about, you know?
Exactly. We're about prepping for podcasts, putting together a very professional show, and really just raising the bar in terms of podcast entertainment. That's what we do here on the Photography Brothers. And today's episode is no exception. We've got a great topic courtesy of my man Michael Costa, and a pretty interesting, maybe thought-provoking. I don't want to say too much right now, but should have a good news story courtesy of yours truly as well. Your photography brother, Jared Poirier, the one with the big ears.
What?
I'm the one with the big ears, and you're the one with the ponytail.
You have normal-sized ears, man. Don't be... Come on, man. You got great ears.
To make them smaller. They're kind of big. It's okay. It's so I can hear you, Brett. It's so I can hear you better, my brother.
Oh, I got a big mouth, so you need big ears to hear everything I'm saying.
Exactly, bro. That's
Beautiful.
what the listeners are here for. So, what's your topic today, my man? Let's get into it.
Okay, so my topic today, I feel like ultimately revolves around an issue, depending on your perspective, around how you identify as a creative. So,
okay, interesting.
I have some. I will be looking off screen every once in a while. I had made some notes because what I quickly realized was that this is something that I think actually might resonate with a lot of people.
That's unfortunate. I know some podcasters who use notes, and they're all cowards.
I mean, everything is off the top of my head, and I look off to remember what I... Just gazing off into the emptiness that is behind the camera, and
you have a picture of your Sony.
I have a picture,
big,
yeah,
like an 11 by 17, and
yeah.
You just look at that for inspiration, and that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, when I want to get excited, I gotta look at it.
Just the Sony logo and the CEO of Sony going. Great job, Michael. Keep going.
Exactly. Wow, man. Yeah, Jared's seen the setup.
Yeah. Hey, they're increasing market share every day, man. Sony's doing all right.
So, what I want to ultimately talk about is this thing that we hear, that we say all the time, and it's style. What is your style? How do you like to edit? How do you play with your settings? Ultimately, those turn into presets that people sell. That turns into an identity that people have of you, right? Like, you think of Brandon Waffle, you know him as the nighttime, low light, but like beautiful neon photography, and like there's a perspective that we have on him, and I want to talk about that just a little bit because I think that there's maybe, depending on your perspective, a positive light in that, and I think depending on your positive, a negative light in that, because I was reading an article. yesterday or the day before, and it was a different struggle. There's this guy called Man Ray. Okay, this guy is like from the early 1900s, 1920s. There we go.
Wow.
And I did not know who he was, so don't worry, everybody. None of us remember, unfortunately. And maybe you do. Maybe you studied it, but he is like supposed to be legendary. Like, he was an innovator. The way he changed things, the way he viewed photography was really beautiful. But he did not identify as a photographer. He identified as a painter. I think we move forward to 2020, 2021. The thing that I think, the struggle I think we seem to have now is more so like, do I identify with this style, or do I identify with this style? Should I identify myself with this style? I think the questions changed a little bit. What I find interesting is that we all feel this need to find a consistency in how we edit our images. And I don't mean quality. I think you can have a standard level of quality in how you edit your photos, but I think that there's something to be said about what you're capturing and why you're capturing it. And this can be true, by the way, from purely from an artistic viewpoint and from a business standpoint. Because the way I see it is, when we're capturing something, we are trying to either capture the true essence of that thing, or we are trying to capture a unique vision that is kind of just growing in here in my case, mainly empty noggin. Okay. So in saying that, when you try to stick to a style, does that necessarily allow you the ability to do that and to fully get what you want out of an image all the time? Maybe if you're constantly shooting street, but everyone evolves and they take photos of different things, and their objectives change. And so does having a style and staying to it make sense all the time? Should you even have a style? I had a very short conversation with Andrew Kearns once. I asked him over Instagram DM, slid in, and it actually worked, believe it or not.
Slid in and it worked.
It actually worked. And I asked him about style, and he's like, I don't have a style anymore. I edit to the image. What does the image want, right? And I really thought about that for a long time, and then seeing some of these articles that have come up, it kind of just stewed. And I messaged Jared, and I said, I'd really love for this to be a topic, because I think it's an interesting one, because ultimately I
think so too.
Right? I think what fuels it ultimately is there is a perception, and honestly a fairly accurate one, that we won't get hired unless there's a consistency to our feed, our portfolio, that people can look at us and say they are that kind of guy or that kind of girl. And it tends to be the case. I don't know if it's the right approach, though, right? Like, do we show companies the same side of us, or do we experiment a little bit and really play and show the different elements? Like, we're creatives, man. Like, we're not supposed to be locked into a certain perspective, certain editing style. I think that we should use the tools that we have that told us, hey, you should be doing something in a creative field, to adapt in the different kind of photos that we get, the different kind of projects that we get. And I think that could actually be appreciated from a client perspective, but I don't know. I think there's a lot to unravel.
Having that variety to your work could be something that is an asset. And I definitely see from the, especially from the artist perspective, from the creative perspective, you don't want to be putting yourself too much in a box necessarily. I mean, when you brought up this topic this morning or last night, whenever it was, I was pretty excited about it. I definitely immediately was like, this is a great topic, very photo bros.
Yes.
And immediately what came to mind, of course, there's the photo editing perspective. What are your presets that you're using in Lightroom? Do you usually have images that are more colorful, images that are a little more toned back in terms of saturation? Are you shooting black and white? Are you shooting high contrast? Really getting getting kind of a brand, I guess,
Yeah.
right, in your images, where people see that image and they know exactly what it is. I think that's true as well, not just for photography, since this is Photography Bros. We're obviously going to discuss photography itself, but with like video content and stuff like
Yeah.
that also factors in, and it got me thinking a lot about that and my own experiences as a creator. And when you look at guys like Peter McKinnon and
Yeah.
Casey Neistat and stuff like that, like the big names, they definitely do have a particular editing style and a particular kind of, I guess, like house style guide in a way of how they produce their videos within watching the first 3 seconds of Peter McKinnon video, even if his little Canadian face his beautiful bearded face isn't on there, and you still know it's his video. Same thing with Casey, right, by like the editing style and things like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, man, I'm hoping that we kind of get to the bottom of it here, and maybe through this discussion we're able to get some enlightenment. Right now I'm kind of stuck in both worlds, to be honest. I'm kind of thinking, like, from the artist perspective, you need to experiment, you need to do whatever you want, and you can't be locked down. But from a business perspective, you have to be known for something, right? Like right now, I'm focusing on doing like my vlogs, and I'm focusing on this podcast. I'm not doing movie reviews. I'm not doing music videos. I'm not doing a whole bunch of other stuff, right? I'm focused on my content, and I'm focused on real estate, and that's my brand, and that's what I'm working towards. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely an argument to be made on both sides for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I think what it ultimately comes down to is, I think there's a medium, at least, that we can start at. And I think you bring up a good point, and like I said, it's an accurate one. It's like people look for it. Our clients look for edit consistency. They want to know that they can go to you for a certain thing and you know it in and out, and you can make images look like this, right? They want that vibe, that feeling. And I get it. I feel like there might be a medium place where okay, you've done this for a while, you have your portfolio up. At the very least, start playing on the personal, just fun, like outside of the client space. Just experiment a lot more, because ultimately, like, what do we lose? We lose the ability to grow, right? So like, I think ultimately, like, taking on crazy projects, like these projects are so important just for yourself, personal projects that you kind of go and you do and you shoot and you take them on, and then you apply those things, start applying those things and integrating them into your style. Maybe you play around so much that you have this really deep portfolio of really good photos, and they look different. But it's undoubtedly, when you look at that feed, maybe not from a nine grid, maybe from that perspective, it's not as pretty and cohesive. But when you dive in, every photo is solid. And instead, maybe a client looks at you and goes, "This person's dynamic," right? So I don't know. I think there's so many ways to play, and I don't know if we do come to an answer today. I don't know. But
I feel like we're already closer. I feel like we're already getting closer. Just talking to you, Michael, is really parting the clouds a little bit. I'm starting to see a little bit more clearly. I think, yeah, that is a lot of it, man. Finding that balance. I think having focus, having like a niche thing that you professionally do, like mine right now is doing like the real estate videos and a little bit of the video work I've been doing for restaurants and stuff like that. Like having those things that are, to be honest, getting a little bit formulaic. Like I get to the site, I know exactly what I need to shoot, I know exactly the process to edit. There's still room for creativity in there, especially when you're working with the type of clients that allow you some creative flexibility, and they'll trust you when you say like, no, I gotta shoot it this way and I gotta edit it this way, and they'll, because they've developed a working relationship with you, and that trust is really there, and the work that you've done for them before has been impressive and delivered results, more importantly, that they're willing to trust you, and they're willing to let you do what needs to be done. But in addition to, you know, doing the thing that you're well practiced at and the thing that you have more of the process down, I think being able to create outside of that and have kind of your own personal passion projects is really important. I was trying to think of an example of something like this, and the only one that I could really think of off the top of my head was with the Ramones. It was Dee Dee Ramone, who I think was the bass player. Like, you know, the Ramones are what they are. They're a punk band. They're known for their, like, 4-chord, you know, punk music, and same sort of thing. I mean, if you hear a song by the Ramones, first few seconds, you know, it's a freaking Ramones song, right? But he was also a rapper and had, like, you know, a hip-hop album and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of goofy, but it's really goofy. Go ahead and look up Dee Dee Ramone's rap career. But, you know, I think that's a good example of an artist who didn't let himself get locked down. So that's just one that came to the top of my head. There's tons of other examples of this, especially in, like, the music world and even movies and things, where people have kind of the normal thing that they do, and then kind of a passion project on the side, so that they can stay creative as an artist. So like I was saying, maybe we're getting a little bit closer to the answer here, and maybe that's it.
Maybe, man. Maybe. I think so you did a great job right there, and I really appreciate you touching on those things. And a lot of what you spoke about was artistic in nature, which is really cool. And even if we want to relate this back, you mentioned real estate. Okay, so now let's talk clients. Okay, so obviously not referring to Jared, because Jared's one of the best in the city. But when we talk about, you know, maybe you're growing, you have some you have a style that you're locked into. You know, maybe you're taking wide images and you're kind of just getting that. But maybe you want to go, hey, you know what? Maybe you ask the guy, you ask the girl, whoever your client is, you go, hey, what if we start there? What in the staging? There's some really interesting detail. What if we want to just really punch in and get a lot of that detail image as well? Like, in the crown molding is beautiful, this and that. You want to punch in and not just have a wide. So, you know, you're adding extra dimension, and it is a little bit of a different approach in state of thinking as well, when you want to punch in and do that kind of stuff too. So it's even like you were mentioning, Jared, it's like, it's a lot of the approach. It's not just a preset that you use. It's actually a style. It's largely interpreted by process and how you shoot and how you think when you shoot. So even just like thinking about perspective when you're there, and like bringing it up and asking, and if they say no, they say no, but at least you're trying, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also from the point of view of your clients, I think that, like, if you are a big company or even a small company, really, if you're hiring out creative, I think ideally, honestly, what you want is somebody who is, well, you're hiring creative. You want someone who's creative. In a sense, you do want an artist, right? You don't want somebody who's going to give you the same cookie cutter thing every time. Yeah. And I think you do want to be looking for somebody who, yes, like, has their niche and has their thing that is reliable, but also somebody who's experimenting and growing, so that your stuff is constantly getting better. Like with the Think Real Estate channel that I run for my client Paul, like, if I just we've been working on that for about a year now, and the types of videos and the quality of the videos is quite different. You know, it's like we've made a lot of improvements, and just looking at his, like, audience and what they want, we've changed a lot. So yeah, I think from both perspectives, from the perspective of the creative, of the artist themselves, you need to, you know, have your thing, but also experiment. And also from the perspective of, you know, the company that's hiring out creative work, I think that you want to be looking for a creative who is creative, who is constantly experimenting, constantly growing. And I think you have to accept that.
Don't be their screwdriver, be their Swiss Army knife.
Oh, I love that, man. Very
Thanks,
true.
man. I was, you know, it took me a while, but I came up with something.
Something witty. So yeah, I guess we solved it.
I guess so, man. Just two scientists cramming our brains together.
I guess art is solved now.
Art is solved. Any dilemma.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
So many other problems in the world, but you guys don't have to worry about art anymore. We understand exactly what to do. Okay, that was a great topic, man. Yeah, really interesting. I hope that the listeners out there got a lot out of it. I know that I did. It sounds like you did as well. Great discussion. I think we're ready to go into the news.
Let's do it.
All right. I have a news story for you today.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, followers, subscribers, supporters of the podcast, all of your hard work in sharing our podcast episodes, it's all going to pay off right here, because this topic is amazing. We are talking about Nikon today, ladies and gentlemen, and this might be part of kind of an ongoing, I'm not going to say an ongoing series since it is part of Photo News, but just kind of an ongoing
segment,
keeping of my eye on you, Nikon, because I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here. I think Nikon is in a lot of trouble. And I just want to be honest about this. I know that there are some, new photographers and new content creators that watch this channel, that listen to the podcast. And you got to know that when you're coming to Photography Brothers, we're going to give you our true opinion and a true assessment of the situation. If I was getting into photography and videography right now, I would not be buying a Nikon camera.
No.
So, and the biggest news that has come out recently is that, read into this what you will, but on the Japanese website, Nikon has just qualified two of their most popular cameras, the D3500 and the D5600, which are DSLR cameras. They have classified them as old cameras on their Japanese website, and in the past this has been basically the first step on the path to these cameras being discontinued. So these incredibly popular, I believe they're both crop sensor cameras, are probably going to be going out of manufacturing. So they won't be making these cameras anymore. And, that means a lot in terms of like firmware support, lens support, all of that type of stuff. Essentially for the entry-level people, this seems to be giving them a big middle finger because these are, like I said, really popular cameras. Some of the most popular cameras in Japan. Actually, the 5600 was in 2020 the best-selling DSLR in Japan. And they're still going to be discontinuing this. And these are pretty cheap cameras that were a pretty good entry-level option. One of my editors, Tristan, was shooting on one for a while until he bought a 6D. And those are you can get them for about $600 for the not for a 6D, but for a 3500, and about $900 for the 5600 body. So I don't know, what do we make of this, man? What's going on here with Nikon? Why are they abandoning entry level photographers and videographers here, buddy?
Well, I think what it could mean is that something is coming. So we know they're investing a lot of time, a lot of R&D and effort in general into their mirrorless lineup right now. And for them to have discontinued two extremely popular cameras, especially that the 5600. You mentioned it. It doesn't need any more explaining. It's a popular camera. It only makes sense to me that they have something coming very soon on the mirrorless side, because I don't think, when you look at those kinds of numbers, Japan, by the way, if you don't know this, Japan, everyone, is like a massive contributor to camera sales. Okay, so very, very big, and so to see a number like that and then to see discontinued in the same headline might be confusing, but I think they're probably going to have something come along very, very soon that is going to replace probably the two of those cameras and speaks some sort of similar design language. Whatever is helping to move these bodies, they're gonna try and encapsulate, but in a mirrorless setup, and probably try to keep it within the same price range. But I mean, what you mentioned, right? Like those price points are pretty incredible for cameras that are this popular and can do, I guess, what everyone deems as valuable enough. So it's interesting. Sure.
I think it really speaks to what you were mentioning there. Nikon really doubling down, committing more to the mirrorless scene, which I have to admit, I'm shooting this on an SLR, but mirrorless seems to be the way that things are going. So yeah, really pushing that Z series of cameras. The Z5 and the Z50 I think have been the most popular offerings in terms of Nikon mirrorless so far. So yeah, I definitely think it's indicative of wanting to move more in that mirrorless direction, which I mean, that's not a bad financial decision. I think that one makes sense. I also think that it's indicative though of just the fact that the company is struggling economically. And then just a little bit of research on this that I did today. The news does not look good. They had an operating deficit of 430 million US dollars. Not amazing. It looks a lot more if you look at it in yen. It looks like freaking 200 billion yen or something. That's wild when you
That's
look
unreal.
at it in yen. It's scary. But they also in 2020 cut about 20% of their workforce. So that's like 20% of people laid off. I don't know if you guys run a business or follow business news. Laying off your employees isn't usually a sign that you're trying to grow the business further. So, I mean, I have a pretty small business and I hired people in 2020. So anyways, just interesting. And another thing, if you look at market share, which is always a good indicator, just going back a few years to 2014, Canon was doing pretty well with about 32% of the market share, which is comparable to how Sony, one of the biggest camera companies, is rocking things now. So from 32% in 2014, they are now at 18% of the market share in 2020, and losing market share pretty rapidly to Sony, and Canon is taking up more and more. A couple other things that just for some historical perspective here. Well, I guess it's not really that historical since this happened last year.
Still history.
Camera companies, it's last year history. Camera companies go out of business. You guys may have heard of a little company called
Olympus.
Yeah. Olympus, yes. Olympus, which sold their camera division for parts to some in the same way that one might sell an old bike or a fridge.
Exactly.
To some Japanese big Japanese tech conglomerate. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but Olympus is not making, manufacturing, marketing, selling cameras anymore. And there is a possibility, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe even a pretty good possibility that Nikon isn't going to be around for very much longer, guys. And when that does happen, I know that people are they're gonna try to blame the photography brothers. But Nikon, you blame yourselves, okay?
Blame yourselves.
Got yourself into this position. So what do you think of that financial news, Michael? I know that you're a bit of a numbers guy yourself, a bit of an entrepreneur yourself. How's that looking to you, man?
I think, wow, yeah. Like, I mean, that's quite the deficit. I'm sure it was difficult for all the camera companies. I mean, the hobby of photography, even just the hobby side of photography, probably took a massive dip in general. But Nikon, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt when you're considering entry level options, you're considering semi-pro to pro, like Nikon just isn't in the conversation right now. The only camera I would say that's probably, I mean, actually, honestly, two cameras I'd say would be the D5600, which we're talking about, but also the D750, which is still very capable camera, very popular. I think it's still a little on the high end, which doesn't help, and probably why they're not in the top top 2, top 3 in sales under that brand. But yeah, I think honestly, the quicker they can move things over to their Z line, I think is going to be better for them. And I think they're doing decent stuff with mirrorless. I'm hoping that all of this means that they truly are just really investing, right? You have car manufacturers that are truly investing in the future of that industry, which is EV. And then I think we're seeing a very similar shift in the mirrorless side for cameras. And I think the quicker people can switch over, the better. It's screwed Olympus. Olympus in general they were not doing enough in general, even in the DSLR game when that was a primary focus. Olympus was just always a little bit behind. I don't know if it was a lack in R&D or what that was, but I think what the trend will always point towards how quickly did you adapt. And I think hopefully, because you want to see Canon make it. I joke around a lot. You
mean Nikon?
What did I say?
Canon's gonna make it, bro. That you said you want to see Canon make it. They got like 50% of the market.
No. Canon can die. I'm joking.
Well, they're not gonna.
No, you're right. Sorry. Nikon. I want them to make it. I want there to be a competition. Yeah. Everyone drives competition and improvement.
Yeah.
But
hell yeah.
But yeah, hopefully this means that they're really double dipping and are moving things in the right direction.
I think so, man. I don't know. I don't know if a hard pivot to the mirrorless is really gonna save them. I mean, like I said, that's where technology is going, and that's obviously the smart move in the long run. Sony has gained so much of the market share in digital cameras purely exactly like that, by pushing the boundaries of full frame mirrorless technology, and to a point where Canon is even having a hard time keeping up. But I was kind of thinking along those lines as well, and this is what kind of changed my thinking on that. I'll tell you right now. I looked up on Amazon.com, little website you may have heard of, and I checked out. Some people buy cameras on there and stuff sometimes. What do you think are the top-selling digital cameras on Amazon?
Like top. Give me what, top 3 or top 5 or what?
Well, there's some other like crappy ones kind of mixed in there, but like just what do you think is in like the top ranging cameras there?
Of 2020?
Yeah.
Is this
just in general
used or
up to date stats? New and used up to date stats.
I'm gonna say one of the A6000 series cameras from Sony. So A6000 or an A63, 64.
The A63 is on the bottom of the list. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Beautiful. I'm gonna say probably the A7 III is probably
So the T7.
Oh.
T7 is dominating on Amazon. The only thing that's even close is the G7X. So those are two entry level crop sensor. I mean, the G7X isn't even interchangeable lens. But yeah, man, it's all Canon T series. These are crop sensor entry level, $1,000 or less, pretty much. Canon DSLR cameras are still dominating the sales on Amazon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, maybe this is exactly the wrong thing to be doing.
It's true.
Maybe Nikon could say, you know what, we're going to continue to push our mirrorless cameras, of course, our Z series cameras, and bankroll those improvements with the tried and true with the SLRs. That seems to be Canon's approach, and honestly, it seems to be working. And I know people who bought Canon full frame SLRs for professional use like this year, so it's still very much an alive system. Like the EF mount isn't going anywhere yet, and yeah, just an interesting perspective to take that on, man. If I was Nikon, I don't know really what's going to save you, but I don't know if canceling the cameras that are actually selling really well even if it's an older technology, is the answer. But
yeah, man, you know what? I think it's such an interesting place right now. It's such an interesting position because here's the thing. Mirrorless is growing a lot.
Yeah.
That's the theme. That's fact.
Facts.
I think it's mainly growing in the entry level side. For the most part, you have a lot of people. We have our influencers as younger individuals. We have our idols. We follow their advice. Everyone's saying go mirrorless. We all know mirrorless is the trend, and that's what's happening. With that being said, there are tons, especially in wildlife sports, like so many photographers that live and die by DSLR technology. And although some are converting and they like to bring those people to the shows and get them to talk about how amazing the mirrorless is, and it is great, you do have to accommodate. Like, to your point, I think, is it okay if you're just eliminating the crop sensor side of things and you keep the full frame, because the committed people that are already invested are probably shooting full frame anyways? Maybe that's their thinking, who knows? But to your point, man, I think like if we see that they announce like a mirrorless equivalent to these two cameras, but it only happens a year or over, then this didn't make any sense. Like an announcement has to come like this week, this month. Like quickly, it needs to be quick, because otherwise, why not? Right? Like, you know, you maybe, I think they're concerned about an overlap for sure. Right? Like you if it's not an option, you can't go to it, and you have to pay more and get into the new ecosystem. But at the same time, it's at the dilemma, of course, it's making the money, but man, it's such a tough like strategic position to have to be in.
Yeah, and as consumers, you know, and as artists and as photographers and videographers and content creators and the rest of it, I think you did bring up the golden point, which is that we all benefit from there being a lot of competition. Like when I see, you know, that Lumix cameras aren't doing great, when I see Olympus going out of business, when I see Nikon now struggling, like we're getting obviously camera sales overall, especially with what we talked about on last week's episode. We talked about smartphone technology replacing cameras. So now we've got, you know, a smaller pie overall and, you know, fewer players in the game, and it's just it's just not going to be great for consumers. Like, we want a lot of competition. We want people pushing the boundaries. I'm just not happy to see it. And if I was to give some advice to Nikon, I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I don't think that killing off your SLRs right now is the right play. I could be totally wrong. I think you really have to go where the winds are blowing. And this isn't just for Nikon, really any of the camera companies out there that obviously, I mean, all of the upper management of those companies, of course, are listening to this podcast and of course are going to take our advice. What people, myself, I'm almost 100% sure that Michael's going to agree with me here. What I want a full frame camera. I want to be able to shoot photos and videos on one system. I want a operating system that is completely intuitive. I want to be able to flip the screen around, and I want to be able to do all of my settings like in selfie mode while I'm shooting a vlog. We need great support for sound. We need good glass at a good price. And I mean, if you can pull off all of those things, then you're going to be dominating. You're going to be seriously dominating, at least when we're talking about consumer cameras. Cinema cameras is a whole nother issue and pretty irrelevant since Nikon doesn't even make one. So
yeah, man, I think the last point I'll just make is, we had a long conversation the other day around how important it is to just read the situation and to adapt. And I think the Nikon's best approach could just be not only adapting and saying that, hey, mirrorless is big, let's be mirrorless, but also like, you know, what is going on right now, what is the consumer trends, what are the consumer trends, not only for photography, not only for that, but also like in what they use it for, in what people are doing and what they're not doing. And for, you know, one thing I thought that was really good that Canon did and Nikon did was they came out with software that made it really easy to just plug and play your camera in, because they knew that streaming was growing. And if they can find ways to just like figure out what those markets are and continue to innovate within them, especially Nikon, I think they really need it. They got to find a way to stay relevant, because if they just go mirrorless and say we have good mirrorless cameras, that's not going to be enough.
Guess what? Sony has better ones.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to do better than that. Yeah. They're gonna have to be cheaper, or they're gonna have to have features that Sony isn't able to implement. And maybe that's 6K, maybe that's 8K, maybe that's extra frames. I don't know, but
maybe it makes streaming easier. Maybe it, you know, it's some of the smart options that we talked about on the last episode.
If it came with the proper HDMI cord and whatnot for streaming, and software that made streaming easy, something like that, man. Yeah, they have to really find their niche. If their niche before was we make the cheapest SLRs that you can buy for $600, it's not that anymore. So I don't know what it is now. I don't know what their identity is now, to be honest. Going to tie it back.
That's a beautiful way
Look
to
at
close
that.
it.
And that is the type of professionalism and really pure genius of Photography Brothers.
100%.
That people are subscribing and following in mass for is topics that weave together perfectly with news stories, bringing you everything that you need to know about photography. I don't think you even have to listen to any other podcast about photography, or really anything else. So we're going to be here every week for you guys. I think we're making this weekly, right?
Yeah, I think so, man. Let's try it.
You heard it here, folks. This podcast is a weekly podcast. I think we're going to release every Wednesday, so look out for that here on the Galaxy channel. Change the name on the Galaxy channel, and over at Photography Brothers on Spotify, hopefully iTunes soon. Michael, thank you for being here with me again, my brother. It's been an amazing conversation. I definitely had a lot of things cleared up by talking to you today. I'm definitely going to have a better, more relaxing Sunday, and I'm just going to sleep better at night now that we have all of these, all of the ducks in a row here. So thank you for that, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. It's even if just for the conversation, always enjoy these episodes, man.
And thank you again to the viewers and the listeners and everybody out there. We are going to continue to learn. We're going to continue to improve and grow as artists and as photographers. And we want to be here for that ride with you guys as you learn and grow with us. So we will see you back here really soon.